Hello, 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 everybody. This is your faithful friend Sandra Graves, and welcome to the Good. Anyway, today we are going to have a very interesting topic. We are not going to just all go in, oh, think positive, oh, do this. We are going to do more than that today. Today we are going to be focused on some tangible information. And with tangible, we mean intelligent disobedience, which Bob McGannon is going to be presenting to us today. He has some great topic, and he is not talking just because he's reading books, because he actually experienced all the things that he's going to be sharing about today. And let me tell you a little bit about Bob McGannon. He has more than 25 years in IT project management. He has project analysis experience. He is a coach, a consultant, a writer, and much more. If I was to try to list everything that he has done, we will have a few more hours for me to do that introduction. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to focus on allowing Bob to introduce himself and tell us a little bit more, because I can talk forever. So let's focus on what Bob have to say, and let's give it a rest right now. So Bob McGannon, this is all yours. Tell us, who is Bob McGannon?
Thank you, Sandra. It's delightful to be with you. Bob McGannon is an 18-year veteran of IBM, and then I ran my own business for 18 years, established a business in the United States, established another similar business doing project management, consulting, and training in Australia, and now have established a second business in Australia, driving new leadership thoughts around this book, which I wrote, which is called Intelligent Disobedience.
Could you lift it up a little bit? Lift up the book a little bit? Yeah, okay, yeah, because, okay, right there.
I'm not sure everybody sees it. Intelligent Disobedience, the difference between good and great leaders.
That's right.
And I frame this not only on my experiences, but the experiences that I have actually been subject to from the best leaders that I've worked with. All of them, to a person, will break the rules. Not as a matter of course, not every day, but they will look at a situation and say, the standard way in which we do things isn't going to work here. It isn't going to get us the best result. So they'll make up new rules, break a rule, modify a rule on the fly to get that better outcome for themselves, for the business they work for, or for their clients. Now, it's probably appropriate that the first thing I share with you is where this phrase intelligent disobedience came from. I so wish I made it up myself, but I didn't. It actually comes from the world of seeing eye dogs. Let me tell you a story, if I may, Sandra. Tell you a story.
Please, I love stories. Tell me.
I am in a hotel in California, and it was at a formal dinner. So picture yourself at a formal dinner. What do you see? People, eating great food, and people dressed absolutely meticulously, right? So I want you to keep that image in mind, because at the end of this dinner, I'm standing in the lobby waiting for one of the elevators to come in, and a gentleman comes by with his seeing eye dog. And he is absolutely dressed exactly like he was at a formal dinner. Beautiful dark blue suit, tie, matching, handkerchief in his pocket. He looked as if he'd just gotten there, not, it wasn't at the end of the night. But he was a vision impaired individual, and he had this seeing eye dog with him. So you picture this white lab and the traditional black, harness that someone with a seeing eye dog would have on the dog. But this dog also has a bow tie on that matches his master's tie and handkerchief.
Oh.
They looked fabulous, right? So you get into this conversation. I'm telling them how good they look, right? And then the elevator comes, and you hear the bing and the whoosh of the doors, right? And unfortunately, the elevator actually failed. The floor of the elevator is maybe 14, 15 inches below the floor that I and my new friend are standing on. The dog figured this out long before I did. And not only did he put on the brakes to prevent his master from walking into the elevator, he literally jumped 90 degrees, blocking his master by creating a hurdle so he couldn't walk forward into the elevator.
Wow.
It was amazing. And I'm sharing this with this gentleman. I said, well, let me tell you what just happened. He said, I figured the elevator failed somehow or another. And I said, well, yeah, that's it exactly. I said, but what your dog did is amazing. And then what he said to me was just as amazing, and I'll never forget it. He said, Chap, the dog's name was Chap, right? He said, Chap is the most obedient dog I have ever had. He said, but when he disobeys me, I obey him.
Wow. That is
Because he understands the objective, he understands the goal, and he takes over to get us there safely.
Wow.
Now, I take this concept and I put it in the business world. How many times has your manager said, or do managers say you should do something a certain way? And it probably works 98% of the time, just like that elevator works 98% of the time. But what about the other two? The manager that says, just do what I told you to do, is going to fall into the floor of the elevator.
Yeah,
Is not going to get there safely and is going to get harmed, or at best is going to get, shall we say, a suboptimal outcome.
Yes.
The whole idea of writing this book is to take those instances where people have said, you know, the outcome we're going to get if I follow the rules here isn't optimal, and I'm going to do something different. And again, the best managers and leaders that I work for have the courage to be able to do that, have the ability to do that very positively, and they do create better outcomes for the people that work for them, the business, and the clients that they serve. So I'm trying to share this premise and this thought process with people in the leadership space. And it's been an interesting ride so far.
So what are some of the things that you tell these people? Because I know, okay, somebody will be like, okay, I'm going to disobey my manager, and people are always going to come up with that. They're going to be like, okay, but what if it doesn't work? So, in what situation would you be able to disobey your manager?
Sure. I by the way, you've touched on my biggest fear in writing this book and sending it out there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to use it as an excuse for bad behavior.
Right.
So one of the things I have in the book, and I know this sounds funny, but I think it makes sense, is I have rules that I recommend for breaking the rules.
Yes.
So, and this to me is the intelligent part of intelligent disobedience. Just deciding that you have a wild hair and you want to break the rules today is not what this is about. Okay, again, it's about seeing a specific situation, seeing that the path that you are taking or the rules or the processes that you're following are not going to get you to that optimal outcome, or maybe even not even get you the outcome that your manager expects you to get.
That's right.
And then doing something different. So the rules for breaking the rules. First and foremost, it is for the business you work for, not for you. So I'm not doing this for some form of personal gain. Now, if I do this well and I am providing better business outcomes, I might benefit from that as well. And that's fine, but that's not the primary reason to do it, right? I'm just not going to do it randomly. I'm going to do it when it's going to create a better outcome. So it is for the sake of the business, not myself. The second thing I want to share with people is this is not I'm not advocating passive aggressive behavior. You don't sit in a meeting and say, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that, and walk out of the room and say, that's not going to work real well, I'm going to do something different. That discussion needed to take place in the meeting. Sometimes intelligent disobedience is simply pointing out an inconvenient truth and really having the determination to get a best outcome when you're all together in a meeting. So it's not passive aggressive behavior. Third,
so it's more, instead of just looking out for number one, it's really looking out for the company, the team, the actual project success.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people will be like, I know better than him. I've been here for a long time. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then they present this information thinking everybody's going to be like, oh, you're right. Maybe you're right. But it's the way that you're presenting that information, right?
Correct. And you present it on the premise that it's your truth, not the truth, because your manager has truth, your clients have truth, and they all might have a different perspective on things. So the idea, and one of the other things I talk about in the book is a good intelligent disobedience, is put your truth on the table and recognize it's not the ultimate truth. When everybody else is given the opportunity to say their perspectives, put their truth on the table is the phrase I like to call it, then you make a decision based on that larger pool of information. You should be able to walk out of the room in that instance, if you were courageous and genuinely truthful, and execute a process that you can support because it was part of that greater truth.
That is correct. And let me
So the
let
third,
me say to the people while you're listening right now, if you have any question, please feel free to ask a question while we are live. And also, if you love what you are hearing through the presentation, please visit Bob McGannon at www.intelligentdisobedience.com and get a copy of this book so that you can learn more about exactly what we're talking about and you can follow the rules of what he's talking about.
absolutely, absolutely. So more of the rules, if you will. Absolutely, positively, I am not advocating you break the law.
Good.
There
Ching
are
ching.
rules.
Check mark.
Yes, there are rules that are there for a reason. They should not be broken, right? Even if you think it's going to create a better outcome, I am not advocating breaking the law. The other thing I'm saying is you need to understand the other rule is to take account for not just what's going to happen in this specific instance when you break the rules. It's what's the long-term implication as well. Because sometimes, while you might get a better outcome today, it could create a worse situation 2 months from now. So make sure you're looking at the long-term implication and the short-term implications as well. And the last rule is don't do this in stealth. You don't sneak around and do intelligent disobedience, right? You tell people what you've done. You go to your manager and say, I saw this situation. I saw what I thought was a better alternative, or it was going to get you what it is you expected of this process or what you expect of me as an employee of yours. So I did this, and it yielded this outcome. And there's a few reasons why you want to do that. First, it might give your manager the opportunity to reflect on this business process or the rules and maybe change them because it's going to accommodate this different situation. But also, if you do that, it's maintaining your integrity. I am, and most people in a job are expected to follow the rules. And you should most of the time. But when you don't, it should be, again, if it's intelligent disobedience, it should be for a specific reason to get that outcome. And there's a learning opportunity in that, maybe for the whole organization. Your manager then has the opportunity to say, yes, that's a good thing. Maybe I change the rules. Maybe I don't change the rules. But also to be able to say, all right, I understand why you took that action to get this better outcome. Next time, maybe you do this. And it might be a different breaking of the rules or invoking of a different rule, whatever the case may be. In the end, you learn, your manager learns, the business gets a better outcome, your client gets a better outcome, and that's what this is all about.
But how do you identify what type of manager you are able to do that with? Is there like you got examples of a type of manager? Because there might be some that don't matter what you do, their egos are so big that even if they saw that as something beneficial, they're not going to budge. So, do you have an idea of what type of managers, what field you get, hold?
That's a very, very good question, Sandra. First thing that I'd say is you're not going to have the ability to engage in any more intelligent disobedience than your manager is. If they don't have the capability to do that because of fear, a very, very hierarchical command and control environment, whatever the case may be, you're probably not going to be able to do it as well. And a little later, I want to talk about authenticity. If you can go to work and feel comfortable with that, that's fine. I couldn't go to work and feel comfortable with that. If I saw a situation where if I varied this process, I'd get a better outcome, and I didn't vary the process and got the suboptimal outcome, I would be gritting my teeth on the way home. I'm going to try to work with my manager to change that person's perspective on what I'm trying to do, or I'm going to look for a different job. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should do that. That's my personality. That's what I'm trying to convey in the book. It's not for everybody. I understand that. And I also understand, and I don't pass judgment whether if people don't want to do this or not.
Right.
If I'm making and let's make up something absurd. If I'm making $1 million a year and my wife is making $1 million a year, I could probably afford to take more risks than somebody that, is barely scraping by and has got 2 sick kids at home.
Exactly.
I understand that. So I'm not passing judgment on that. But to get back to your point about working with your manager, it's an interesting thing to talk about intelligent disobedience with your manager ahead of time. What if you went into this manager's office who's very, very rules and process based, and you said, I see a potential I see a potential instance where this process is not going to yield the best outcome. Or if I find one of those situations where we put this process in place to get consistency to serve our client, and it's not going to serve our client, what would you want me to do? You might find a very interesting dialogue comes about associated with it.
Yeah.
Now, if they ultimately tell you, I don't want you to think, I don't want you to change anything, if it creates a suboptimal outcome, then that's fine. Then again, you go back to my question that says, if you're comfortable with that and can live with that, that's fine. That's just not my personality.
Yes.
I think the basis is having a conversation, talking about the possibility, and maybe getting a set of boundaries. I know a logistics manager, and I told a story in the book about a logistics manager that gave his employees the flexibility to vary what they spend by 10%. So if normally they spend $100 on getting a part to one of their divisions, if they see a specific reason why that someone really needs it and it's going to be for the benefit of the business, he's given them the leeway to spend $110 instead of $100 to get that part there without getting permission. If they want to spend more than $110, they have to come to him for permission. And he wants to know the reason why. So sometimes if you actually talk about this subject ahead of time, and I actually frame ways in which you could do this in the book, you might actually gain a little bit of flexibility or wiggle room to engage in a bit of intelligent disobedience that you might not otherwise. But you're absolutely right, Sandra. This is going to depend on your manager and how ultimately that's going to work.
Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break. But before we go to a commercial break, I have a question from the audience. They say, intelligent disobedience, does this work best with managers who support their directs versus those who dictate their directs? And I am going to pause. And then when I come back, I would like you to answer that question.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, my friends, for watching The Code. Don't forget that we are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are bringing you coaches and speakers and classes and experts in different areas in order to help you grow. That's what we are here for. So if you have any comments, questions, or if you are a sponsor, please send us an email to info@envivoassociate.com. Again, info@envivoassociate.com with your host, Sandra Graves, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for watching The Code.
Welcome back, my friends. This is your faithful friend, Sandra Graves. You are listening to The Code. And if you're an expert in a particular area and you would like to interview with us, please send us an email to info@envivolive.com. Again, that is I'm wrong. That is not Envivo Live. It's info@envivoassociate.com, info@envivoassociate.com. So delete what I just said. Repeat. info@envivoassociates.com, and you can send us a message there. You don't have to be just motivational and think positive and all that. I want more. I want more substance. I want people that are helping others to do better at work, to be able to advance, to be able to succeed in the world that we live in, not just think positive, think positive. Come on, people. Let's do more than that. And that's what I'm looking for. So please, if you believe that you can add value to others and you want to present that information here and The Code, don't forget, get in touch with me. And we're going to continue with Bob McGannon. If you want to connect with Bob McGannon, please visit him at www.intelligencedisobedience.com so that you can learn more about who he is, what he's doing, and you can purchase a copy of his book, Intelligence Disobedience, the difference between good and great leaders. And let me tell you, I didn't tell you guys before I actually hello Bob to answer the question. Bob used to be my boss. And I can tell you, I just love this man. He is amazing. The things that he's talking about, it is real. This is how he treats people. This is the kind of person that I consider he have set a standard for the way I see managers, the way I see people managing their team and their business. This the man that I have set a standard for. Like anywhere I judge my managers, judge them based on Bob McGannon because he have been incredible. He have the type of person that supports you, the type of person that encourages you, even though he know what he's doing, he try to help other people while he's doing it. So I wanted to put that in there because I can tell you that he's just not talking from his rear end. He's talking because he knows what he's talking about. He implement the things in that you can read in this book. So you know, I love talking a lot, so let's get back to Bob McGannon.
well, I'm humbled. Thank you, Sandra, and I've always loved your energy, and it's still very apparent after a few years since we...
A lot of years.
We won't tell anybody how many, but it's been a few. So the question at hand is who's best at engaging in intelligent disobedience? And I think the person that asked the question probably has a bit of the answer in their own head, and that's a manager that can ultimately help their people, so the people that they're managing, engage in a bit of intelligent disobedience, but also can do the same thing with their manager, is probably got the greatest amount of flexibility and power to engage in intelligent disobedience at different levels. But really, anybody in an organization ideally would be able to engage in intelligent disobedience. That's not reality, however, because I talked earlier about having a good perspective on short-term and long-term outcomes and that sort of thing. And some people just aren't that good at it, or they may be new in the organization. They don't understand the rules because you have to understand the rules to know best when you can break them. So there's some other factors that come to play as to whether you can engage in intelligent disobedience or should engage in intelligent disobedience. Interestingly enough, I've talked to police officers about this and said, what do you think? I'm producing this book about intelligent disobedience. I mean, you know, is someone going to break the law? What do you think about this? And they go, oh, we do this 10 or 12 times a day. I went, seriously? And they said, yes. They look at a given situation and make a determination as to whether applying the law, fining somebody, arresting somebody is actually appropriate. I mean, if they really went by the book, they'd arrest us all for jaywalking.
Yes.
You can shut down a city that way, right? So
yes.
They have a different perspective on intelligent disobedience, and that's, do I enforce the law? When do I enforce the law, and to what degree? Do I give somebody a warning? Do I give them a fine, or do I take them to jail, right? So right. It's really something that just about anybody in an organization can do, but again, you need to have the right mindset, and you really do need to understand the rules. Those police officers understand the law, therefore they can make those interpretations and do so logically. So hopefully I've answered the listener's question.
And then another question that we have here is project management fun, and what motivated you to be a project manager?
Yes, it's fun. It is my definition, greatest definition of real work, because you're bringing people together, you're producing new things, and you're creating change and improvement in a business. And that, from a work perspective, is what I really enjoy. I think the other thing that attracted me to project management is no 2 days are the same. Some days you're writing, communicating, you're planning, you're dealing with problems, you're dealing with people, you're doing strategy. It is such a diverse job that no 2 days are the same, and I get really excited about that. So yeah, that's basically where I've come from and why I became a project manager and stuck with it for so long.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. So let's get back to intelligence disobedience. What else you want to share with us about that?
So one of the other things that I think is the benefit of intelligent disobedience is if you're working with the teams that you're leading to do this, you're helping the people in your organization be authentic. If you remember before the break, we were talking about someone that's told, just follow the rules. I know it isn't going to create the best outcome. Just do that anyway. And I said, if you told me that, I'd be gritting my teeth on the way home, right? That to me is almost an unethical thing to do. I see an opportunity for a better outcome for everybody involved. And if it indeed has short-term positive and long-term positive, why wouldn't I let this happen?
Right.
And to me, that would be me being authentic at work. If I have to go to work, let's take Sandra Graves, for instance, with your passion and your ability to communicate. If we put you in a job, Sandra, where we said, just be quiet, put tops on bottoms, you can't talk to anybody, we don't want to see any enthusiasm, you'd go to work, you would be putting the majority of who you are in a box.
No, I can't do it. I
And
cannot
you'd
do
never be
it.
able to do it, right? Now, I'm exaggerating the point a little bit, right, with this, but when someone goes to work and has to take a part of who they are, put it in a box and set it aside, to me, to at least some degree, when that person's at work, they're pretending.
Yes.
I don't want people to be pretending. I want people to be their full selves at work. Now, sometimes it means I have to coach them and modify some behaviors and have it work with the team. And by the way, that to me, as a leader, one of the things I need to do as a leader is assemble and mold a team that's going to work very well together. Right. And if I have someone who's on my team that cannot be authentic, they're not doing the best job that they can do because they're pretending. Yeah. I'm going to want to modify. I'm going to want to change who they are or where they are in the organization. And you really can't change who people are. So it's probably more change where they are, what they're doing in the organization. Try to find them a role where they really can be authentic. Yeah. The more authentic people you have on the team, the better your team is going to perform. And that also allows you to be authentic if you can all be together and appreciate each other. So I think there's, there isn't a specific statement in my book which talks about let everybody be authentic. But I think a lot of the dialogue in the book and bringing forward points, how you communicate, altering the rules if it's going to get a better outcome is actually allowing people to be authentic. And to me, if I have a team where everybody's being authentic when they come to work and they don't have to take some little piece of themselves and package it and put it aside, you're going to get a very high-performing, very loyal team.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I got to applaud that one because that is very needed. So if you're a manager listening to this, I mean, that was like a slap in the face with just this authenticity conversation. So thank you for sharing that, Bob.
And if I have time for one more thing before we have to go.
Yes, we do.
I tell you this, as we're talking, if I'm talking to leaders out here that are listening, the environment that you create for people, not only to be authentic, but actually to treat them as human beings is also very important. I actually know of a hospital, and I'm not exaggerating. I know of a hospital where near the emergency room, the only place that people can go if they have to console themselves because, they just had a 12-year-old die in their arms or something tragic like that, is the bedpan room. That literally is where they clean and store bedpans. That is the only place where they can have a private conversation or go to just console themselves for a few minutes. When you have people that have a job where you're expecting them to show compassion for a lot of people, and you don't show compassion for them, what kind of culture do you have? I think part of authenticity and intelligent disobedience as a leader is taking a step back and looking at what you're doing to create an environment for people to truly flourish. Yeah. Do you have a bedpan culture in your organization? Or do you have one where you support people for who they are? And that means, by the way, if they do something wrong or if they do something that's not up to par, you take them aside and you tell them that. And you create a learning moment. You create a coaching moment. They become a better employee. You have better outcomes. But it takes effort and it takes focus to do this. So I want to challenge anybody that's a leader out there, says, do you have a bedpan culture? And it may be a little crude, but I think it actually is a very, very vivid response for some organizations, cultures that I've seen and how they treat people. And I think one of the other things I've tried to do with this book is to give people a different way to think about that and maybe some different perspectives.
But so maybe this is a great way for the people that are listening right now. And if you have a manager, I think you need to buy the book and then give them this book as a gift. Give them the book as a gift so that they can learn. But I have a comment here. It says, people do this for years. In parentheses, follow rules don't help due to the corporate ladder/structure. And this is all they know. If the leadership isn't interested in change, how can those people stop pretending?
And they probably can't. as I said, this is not for everybody. I guess the question that I would ask that listener if they find themselves in that situation is, are they being authentic when they go into that environment? And could they find a better place to work or a different place to work? Now, again, I want to go back to that situation. I know that's a very tough thing to ask, and it might be very difficult for some people versus others. This is not going to work in every environment. But first of all, it'll never change if you don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. Ask that what if question about, what if this, what if we could get a better outcome? What if I see this specific instance? And if people don't want to do that, and the managers don't want to let you do that, then it's a matter of just asking yourself the question, is this where I could be? And should I be looking for something else? And that looking for something else could be 1 week, 10 weeks, 20 weeks, 100 weeks. Sometimes just the fact that you're looking and you're focusing on where can I be authentic? When you show up for an interview and you can be authentic and that's desirable to that manager, you're going to be in a very good position potentially to get a new job.
The person said 100% yes.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to do that, and I understand that. And I'm actually challenging people to question that as to whether that should be what they're doing, and question their managers as to whether just following the rules should be what they're doing.
Yeah. So anything else, in closing, I am going to close my mouth after I say a few things, and then I want you to close with a powerful closure, and then let people know where they can follow you. I know that you are on YouTube, so if you are listening, please follow Bob McGannon on YouTube. He's on YouTube. And then also, again, his website is www.intelligentdisobedience.com. If you're an expert in a particular area, please get in touch with me at the right email, info@invivoassociates.com. Oh yeah, I said it right this time. And I would love to talk to you. And then Bob, for closing, it is all yours.
Sure. Just one more thing. I'm the only Bob McGannon on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me and we can start that dialogue. Look, a lot of people will question me about intelligent disobedience and am I pushing ethical boundaries? I actually think this is a higher form of ethics. When you see a better outcome and you don't, the possibility for a better outcome, and you don't do something about it, that to me is questionable. I'm not going to say it's unethical, but it's questionable. I'm trying to promote a higher form of ethics here where people are working together, appreciating each other, but also striving to get better outcomes. And that's the intent of the book. And it's all story-based. There's no theory in here. I'll put forward a point, and then there are actual real-life stories in here as to where that has been put in practice. And there's also a chapter in here for intelligent disobedience that wasn't so intelligent. So learning from our mistakes. So it's all in the book. It's not real long. Hopefully it'd be a fun, enjoyable read. But again, it's not theory. It's all got real-life stories in it.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Sandra. It's been a pleasure to be with you, as always.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. And don't forget, just be wise. Bye-bye.